What if the person you've known your entire life slowly fades away while their body remains fully intact? It's not a science fiction story, it's not a nightmare, it's a heartbreaking reality for millions of families dealing with dementia, one of the most devastating conditions anyone can experience. And the scariest part? By the time we recognize the symptoms, it might already be too late to reverse them. Today, I want to talk about something that affects far more people than we often realize, and yet we rarely talk about it until it's progressed too far: the early signs of dementia. You see, while the human body is remarkably resilient, capable of healing, rebuilding, and adapting, the brain operates under a different set of rules. When it comes to dementia, once the brain passes a certain threshold of decline, recovery becomes nearly impossible. Dementia isn't just forgetfulness. It's a steady erosion of the mind, of memory, of personality, of reasoning. And what makes it so uniquely painful is that, while the physical body remains, the person we knew begins to disappear. Imagine talking to someone you love and realizing they no longer recognize your face, your name, your bond. Most people think of dementia as a singular disease, but it's actually an umbrella term. Underneath it are various conditions like Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, and vascular dementia. Each has different biological markers, like protein tangles, plaques, or silent strokes. But here's the truth that many miss. The exact classification rarely changes the outcome. Why does that matter? Because focusing too much on labels distracts us from what truly counts, recognizing the signs early enough to do something about it. That's the heart of what I want to share with you today. If we can identify the early indicators, if we can spot the red flags before they evolve into irreversible damage, we still have a chance to slow it down, a chance to even reverse the trajectory. But the window of opportunity is narrow and closing fast. So let's begin by understanding how this decline starts, what to look for before it's too late, and how you can take action when it still matters. Dementia doesn't arrive all at once. It sneaks in slowly, subtly, like a shadow stretching across the mind. And the truth is, by the time it becomes obvious, so much has already been lost. That's why understanding each stage is critical. It's not just about diagnosis. It's about catching the warning signs early enough to take action while it still matters. Let's walk through the 7 stages of mental decline so you can see how dementia progresses and why the first signs, though quiet, should never be ignored. Stage 1. Normal cognition. At this stage, everything appears fine. There are no noticeable signs of memory loss or cognitive problems. It's life as usual. But behind the scenes, for some, microscopic changes in the brain may have already begun. Think of it as the calm before the storm. This is where prevention, lifestyle, diet, mental stimulation matters most, even when everything feels normal. Stage 2. Very mild decline. This is the stage most people dismiss. You occasionally forget a familiar word. You walk into a room and forget why. Maybe you misplace your keys more than you used to. It's easy to chalk this up to just getting older. But if these slips start to happen more often or feel different from your normal self, it could be an early whisper of something deeper. Stage 3. Mild cognitive impairment. Now the signs become harder to ignore. You forget names of people you just met. You read a paragraph or watch a short video, and moments later, you struggle to recall the main point. Your short-term memory starts slipping and you begin to notice. Many people in this stage create coping strategies: sticky notes, to-do lists, calendar reminders. They leave a trail of breadcrumbs to stay on top of life. And while this compensation works for a while, it's also a signal. The brain is beginning to struggle. Stage 4. Moderate decline. This stage marks the early phase of actual dementia. You start forgetting recent events, what you did yesterday, or even earlier in the day. Mental math becomes frustrating. Subtracting by sevens or balancing a checkbook suddenly feels overwhelming. Managing finances becomes nearly impossible. Even tasks that require just a few steps, like paying a bill online, may require help. This is where family members often begin to notice something's not quite right. Stage 5. Moderately severe decline. Here, memory loss and confusion deepen. You might forget your own phone number or address. Choosing what to wear becomes a challenge, not because of indecision, but because your brain can't process what's appropriate for the season or occasion. Your independence begins to fade. Daily tasks, once second nature, now require guidance or full assistance. The world begins to feel more disjointed, harder to navigate. Stage 6. Severe decline. At this point, the disease becomes heartbreaking for both the person and their loved ones. You may no longer recognize your spouse, your children, or closest friends. You might wander off and not remember how to get home. Personality changes can become more pronounced. There's often a need for constant supervision to ensure safety because judgment awareness and self-care skills are largely gone. For many families, this is the point when full-time care becomes necessary. Stage 7. Very severe decline. This is the final stage. There is little to no connection with the outside world. Communication becomes limited to a few repeated words, or none at all. Facial expressions fade. You may no longer be able to walk, eat without help, or even swallow. There's no awareness of self or surroundings. What remains is a physical shell of someone who once lived a full and vibrant life. It's a sobering progression, but not a hopeless one. Because the earlier we recognize the first hints of mental decline, the greater our chance of slowing or even halting the process. And that's exactly where we're headed next. The hidden signs that appear before memory loss ever begins. Dementia doesn't begin with forgetting your child's name or getting lost in your own neighborhood. It starts with subtle signals, changes so minor that they often go unnoticed. But these signs are the body's quiet alarm, warning us that something deeper is unfolding. Let's take a closer look at what those early whispers sound like. You may notice that your mental stamina just isn't what it used to be. Tasks that once took an hour now feel exhausting after just 20 minutes. Concentration slips faster. You find yourself rereading the same paragraph twice, maybe 3 times, just to absorb it. Mentally, you feel drained far more quickly than before. Then there's the body language, the posture you carry without thinking. A slouched, hunched back might seem like a harmless habit, but it can actually signal a decline in brain function. Our posture reflects our neural control. As the brain weakens, the body begins to fold inward, literally. It's not just about standing tall. It's about brain strength fading quietly. Fine motor skills can also start to falter. Have you noticed your handwriting shrinking? Not just changing style, but becoming so small it's barely legible. That condition, called micrographia, is more than a quirk. It's a neurological red flag. Similarly, if your hands twitch while at rest, or if you don't swing your arms when you walk like you used to, that's your brain sending a signal that it's losing coordination. And what about your senses? A fading sense of smell is one of the earliest predictors of neurodegeneration. You might not fully taste your favorite meal. Scents seem dull, muted, or missing altogether. It's easy to brush off, but smell is a direct link to brain health. If it's fading, something deeper may be shifting. Another subtle change? Sleep quality. It's not just about waking up tired. It's about disrupted cycles, restlessness, or needing caffeine to function. Since the brain governs hormones like melatonin and cortisol, poor sleep often reflects deeper dysfunction. If you're suddenly not sleeping like you used to, it might not be stress. It could be neurodegeneration at work. Then there are the social clues, the ones others may spot. Before you do, poor judgment becomes more frequent. You may misread situations, overspend, or make impulsive decisions. You might forget appointments or birthdays, not just occasionally, but often enough that it starts to affect relationships. You might ask, is it Monday when it's clearly Thursday? Or dress for winter when it's the peak of summer? These early signs don't scream for attention, but they matter because this is the window of opportunity. When these signals begin to show, it means the brain still has fuel left to fight. It's still capable of change, of healing, of holding on to its strength, but only if we act early. To truly understand dementia, we need to go beneath the surface, past the forgetfulness and confusion, and into the machinery of the brain itself. Because dementia isn't just about memory, it's about energy, it's about fuel, it's about stimulation. When the brain begins to decline, it's not simply because we're getting older. It's because the engine that powers every thought, every memory, and every decision is breaking down at the cellular level. Let's start with the basics. Your brain, like your muscles, follows one core rule: use it or lose it. If you break your arm and wear a cast for 6 weeks, the muscles shrink. Why? Because they haven't been used. The same principle applies to your brain. If it's not being challenged, stimulated, or moved, it begins to weaken. Most people believe that brain stimulation comes from doing puzzles, reading, or having deep conversations. While those things do help, they only scratch the surface. In fact, over 90% of the stimulation your brain needs to stay alive and active comes from one surprising source: movement. Yes, physical movement is what keeps your brain alive. Every step you take, every arm you swing, every stretch you make sends powerful signals to your brain. That's why exercise is not just about weight loss or heart health. It's one of the strongest protectors of your mind. Now, combine a lack of movement with something even more dangerous: neuroinflammation. This inflammation doesn't start in the brain. It starts in the gut, in the bloodstream, and in our metabolic health. What we eat, how we sleep, how much stress we carry, these factors all contribute to chronic inflammation that eventually reaches the brain. Over time, this triggers damage to neurons and disrupts the energy factories inside brain cells. That's where another major culprit comes in: insulin resistance. It's commonly associated with diabetes or weight gain. But here's the shocking part. Researchers now refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. Why? Because insulin resistance doesn't just affect blood sugar, it blocks your brain from getting the fuel it needs to function. Neurons starve, connections weaken, and cognition slowly collapses. Add environmental toxins to the mix: pesticides, heavy metals, processed foods, and the problem compounds. The body becomes overwhelmed. The brain, which is already vulnerable, suffers most. Over time, as neurons struggle to produce energy and send signals, the early signs begin: poor focus, fatigue, mental fog. Then come the structural losses: shrinkage in brain volume, reduced blood flow, and eventually, dementia. But here's the good news. If the decline begins with energy loss, inflammation, and disuse, then the path to healing begins with re-energizing the brain, reducing inflammation, and moving with purpose. So what can we actually do about it? If dementia begins with silence, small shifts in focus, posture, memory, then our best defense is to act before that silence becomes permanent. Because the truth is, it's not too late. Not if you catch the signs early, not if you start today. Let's explore what the brain truly needs to stay sharp, energized, and fully alive. These aren't gimmicks or shortcuts. They're grounded in biology, simple, daily habits that send a powerful message to your brain. You still matter, you still work, you're still needed. Move with intention. Every single day, forget high-intensity workouts or complicated fitness plans. What your brain craves is consistent movement. Walk, stretch, dance, take the stairs. Just move. Movement isn't just exercise, it's neural nutrition. It increases blood flow, delivers oxygen, and triggers the release of brain protective chemicals like BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Even 5 minutes of stretching in the morning can light up your brain's circuits like a sunrise, through fog. And the more you move, the more your brain remembers how to move, keeping coordination, balance, and memory intact. Feed your brain, not just your stomach. Your brain is an energy hog. Though it weighs only about 2% of your body, it consumes over 20% of your total energy. But it can't run on sugar spikes and processed carbs. Choose foods that reduce inflammation and stabilize blood sugar. Healthy fats like avocados, wild-caught, salmon, walnuts, fiber-rich veggies, and leafy greens, antioxidant-rich spices like turmeric and cinnamon, and perhaps most importantly, cut out refined sugars and ultra-processed snacks. What you eat today becomes the structure of your brain tomorrow. Sleep is not optional. Sleep isn't just rest. It's neurological housekeeping. While you sleep, your brain clears out toxins and strengthens neural connections. Chronic sleep loss doesn't just make you tired, it accelerates brain aging. Make sleep a ritual. Keep a dark, cool room. Avoid screens at least an hour before bed. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even weekends. You're not being lazy, you're being strategic. Because you can't build a strong mind on a sleep-deprived brain. Challenge your mind differently. Yes, puzzles and brain games help, but they're not enough. Your brain thrives on novelty and complexity. So, shake things up. Learn a musical instrument. Pick up a new language. Cook without a recipe. Take a different route on your walk. Every new challenge forms new connections. The more paths your brain builds, the more resilient it becomes. Nurture human connection. Loneliness is one of the most dangerous conditions for the aging brain. People who feel isolated are at significantly higher risk for cognitive decline. But connection protects. Call a friend, join a book club, volunteer, or simply spend time talking, laughing, sharing stories. Human connection isn't just emotional, it's biochemical. It boosts neurotransmitters that protect your mind. Manage stress. Before it manages you, stress shrinks your brain. Literally. Chronic cortisol from ongoing stress erodes memory centers and fuels inflammation. Take time every day, even 5 minutes, to breathe deeply, meditate, take a mindful walk, listen to calming music, write, pray. Whatever helps you reconnect with peace, make it non-negotiable. Prioritize purpose. The brain needs more than oxygen, food, and rest. It needs meaning. People with a sense of purpose, whether it's caring for family, creating art, serving others, or pursuing a goal, experience slower brain aging and sharper cognition. Ask yourself, what gets me out of bed in the morning? And then nurture that flame. You don't need to do everything at once. Start with one habit, then build. The most powerful defense against dementia isn't a pill or a promise. It's your daily decisions. Every choice you make is either feeding the brain or draining it. And remember, you don't need to wait until something's broken to start protecting it. Let's be honest. We all forget things. We all misplace our phone. We all walk into a room and forget why. It's part of being human. And part of getting older. But how do you know when it's just aging and when it's something more serious, like dementia? This is where so many people feel uncertain. So let's break it down in a way that's clear, compassionate, and easy to remember. Judgment and decision-making, normal aging. You occasionally make a bad decision. You splurge on something unnecessary or forget to follow up on a task. But given time, you realize it and correct it. Dementia. There's a consistent pattern of poor judgment, dangerous financial choices, impulsive behavior, or confusion in everyday situations. The ability to reason through a problem fades, not just occasionally, but regularly. Handling money and bills. Normal aging. You might forget to pay a bill now and then, especially when life gets hectic. But with a reminder, you handle it. Dementia. Managing money becomes confusing and overwhelming. You may forget how to write a check, balance a budget, or use a credit card. Even with help, the process doesn't make sense anymore. Time and place awareness. Normal aging. You lose track of the day or date, but if you stop to think, you can figure it out. Dementia. You may ask if it's winter, in the middle of summer, or forget what city you're in. There's genuine confusion about time, place, and sequence that doesn't resolve with a little thought. Losing things. Normal aging. Everyone misplaces keys or glasses, but typically you can retrace your steps and find them. Dementia. You may lose things often, and not only fail to retrace steps, but also put objects in odd places. The phone in the freezer, the TV remote in the bathroom drawer. There's no memory of having moved them at all. Conversation and language normal aging. You occasionally search for a word or lose your train of thought, but it comes back to you. Dementia. Conversations become jumbled, disorganized, and hard to follow. You repeat yourself without realizing. You lose the thread completely and can't return to it. Others may find it increasingly difficult to understand your point. Orientation. To people normal aging. You forget someone's name, maybe an acquaintance from years ago, but recall it later. Dementia. You may forget the names of people closest to you, or no longer recognize their faces. That's when the heartbreak sets in, not just for you, but for everyone who loves you. So how can you tell when it's time to worry? Ask yourself this. Is it happening more often? Is it interfering with daily life? Is it getting worse over time? Because normal aging is inconsistent. We slip up, then bounce back. But dementia creates a steady downward slope, one that eventually becomes impossible to ignore. The point isn't to live in fear. It's to live with awareness. If you or someone you love is showing these signs, don't wait. Early action is powerful. Whether it's a lifestyle change, a conversation with a doctor, or simply tracking symptoms, every small step you take now can protect the life you want to hold on to later. If this video resonated with you, be sure to check out the next one, where I'll dive deeper into how diet and movement can protect your brain for decades to come. And if you'd like more clear, science-based tips that actually make a difference, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Your health begins with knowledge. Let's keep learning, making better choices, and living more fully, one mindful bite at a time.